Welcome back to the Empowered Learning Podcast, where we explore ideas that help leaders, educators, and entrepreneurs build stronger teams and better systems. Today's guest is Simon Mont, co-founder of Harmonize and a global facilitator who's worked with over 500 organizations with a background spanning law, facilitation, and organizational strategy. Simon brings a powerful insight to this conversation. Being great at your job doesn't automatically make you a great leader. In this episode, we unpack why teams struggle to collaborate, the difference between leadership and organizational design, and how intentional systems create real alignment. If you've ever seen talented teams still feel disconnected, this one's for you. Let's dive in. Hello, Simon. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, Andy?
I'm doing good, doing good. Just found out we're just a few hours apart here. I'm in Southwest Colorado. You're in northern New Mexico. So generally, I talk to people that are all the way across the country. So it's nice to talk to someone that understands mountain time, right? There is something other than Eastern and Pacific time, right? Us guys caught in the middle. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate your time, man. We don't know each other all that well, but I'm looking forward to getting to know you a little bit and the little bit that we've talked and the research that I've done. I know you do a lot of stuff with teamwork and leadership, so I want to just start right out of the gate. What is one uncomfortable truth about teamwork or leadership that organizations really need to hear, but generally don't? So I know you've done a lot of things and a wide range of things, but what is a common theme that you see over and over again that you're like, this is a must know, and people don't get it?
The issue area expertise and organizational development expertise
Okay.
are very different things.
Okay.
And that both of those things are also different from how we commonly think about leadership itself.
Okay.
So like just to start with the beginning, right? Issue area versus organizational development. Let's say you're running a nonprofit that wants to do food security work.
Okay.
It's one thing to be an expert on what food security looks like and thinking about food systems and thinking about food policy.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't necessarily mean that you have the skill sets yet and the mindsets yet to know how to get 40 other people to collaborate effectively to do the food security thing.
Yes.
Right. And then a lot of people will come in and so they'll see that puzzle and they'll think, oh, well, I need leadership training. And leadership training can be really effective. It also tends to focus on individual behavior, individual skill sets, individual mindsets. What are you aware of as a leader? What's your leadership style? How do you motivate? How do you incentivize? All that's super useful. But when we're talking about getting a team of 40 people to work together, there's actually like a particular skill set that is creating the circumstances for a team to collaborate effectively together, which is kind of like building a house, right? Yeah. It's like being an architect is a skill set. Sure. You can learn how to do it. So I think that puzzle is where a lot of people get tripped up.
Yeah, I love it. And I'm sure we'll dig into this more as we go through the conversation, but I appreciate those insights and kind of frame of references as we move forward. So appreciate it.
Yeah.
So Simon, tell me a little bit about yourself. Where did you grow up? What are some interesting things about you that kind of led us to the point where your path and my path crossed?
Yeah, I grew up in Maryland, and I think there were a few formative experiences really, really young. One was my brother has Asperger's, and I was watching him navigate a bunch of systems that weren't working for him, from the education system to work systems. And I was watching my parents figure out, how to advocate for him, to ask for changes in those systems, and also help him as an individual figure out how to make those changes in himself. So I was watching that happen. And part of that, and at the same time, I was getting picked up by my mom after school every day. And she worked in nonprofits and had always had a story about the way that the mechanics were breaking down and creating a kind of poor workplaces that were impacting her. So I was kind of like brainstorming with her from a young age, seeing my brother from a young age. And then we would play a lot of board games because that was a thing that my brother really loved.
Okay.
And playing a different board game a couple times a week. What is a board game? It's a system of rules and a structure of interaction
Okay.
that creates certain relationships between the people at the table,
Yeah.
and also asks you to think about strategy, about what you're trying to do
Mhm.
and how you're trying to get it done based on the rules. And
Right.
here I
Right.
was, 9 years old,
Hmm.
learning a bunch of these systems and also really valuing, like, oh, but we want to feel like family. We want to feel like we're here together. And at the same time, my parents really have a deep kind of set of justice values of how we ought to be in the world.
Okay.
So kind of from a young age, I'm like blending these things. And I think on a real level, I'm still just trying to design a game that all of the people that I like are willing to
Love it.
play, and that the
Love it.
strategy leads you to justice.
Mm.
And I think that's been the puzzle. I think there's been, I'm kind of a deep spiritual seeker type. There's some threads
Hmm.
about that. And
Hmm.
I think on the professional level, I was a school teacher. I wanted to
Okay.
go to law school to do anti-mass incarceration work.
Okay.
And through teaching and through that work, I kind of noticed a lot of our attempts to solve problems recreate the underlying dimensions of those problems.
Wow.
And we really struggle to work together in new
Hmm.
and creative ways to create new worlds.
Right.
And I just became obsessed with the puzzle of like, okay,
Mm.
how do we do that? Um, and another thing I think that's kind of just funny to put more of myself on the table is like, I went to law school in Berkeley.
Okay.
So, there was a year where I skipped the first year of law school to go to Burning Man. And I'm sitting out in Burning Man in the desert on psychedelics, having all of these things of like, oh my gosh, we're really just creating our own worlds and like that kind of tripper thing. And I came back into law school and I was still on the psychedelics. They hadn't left my system. So I'm sitting in law school with the same consciousness of like, oh my gosh, these people who made the law school and the law, they were just playing the same game. So it was like this really massive flexibility. And then you walk out and you go down to Oakland, where I was living, and you have a lot of like Black liberation history, a lot of
Okay.
movement history there. It's like,
Right.
okay, so I'm still blending these, trying to blend those
Sure.
worlds too.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's a lot, right? A lot to um maneuver and try to put I love the idea of a puzzle, right? I mean, it goes from board games into puzzles and kind of the similarities there, and there's everybody sees things a little bit differently and that kind of stuff. So I we'll continue on the conversation. There's somebody that I you've got to meet, couple
All
actually.
right.
Oh my goodness, yes, yeah. That a guy that's been to Burning Man had a similar experience, just kind of how that changed the course of his life. One of my good friends that I bought the tech company from that I run now, and just he is all about social justice and what are the systems and this kind of stuff. So, anyways,
Yep.
y'all need to talk. We'll get that. We'll make that happen. So awesome. Um, Okay, man, where to start? There's so many things that we could talk about here. Let's start here. So, from the little bit that we've heard here and a little bit I've researched, you've worked across psychology, organizational design, technology. That's kind of where you and I, there's some other similarities and kind of crossovers there. Um, we talked a little bit about just mistakes or people the misnomers, better to say, that leaders just don't have. But what are leaders doing right now that are trying to fix the culture of teamwork that is just it's that you have a different perspective. Maybe it's not right or wrong, but there I think you had even said something to the effect of, we're kind of perpetuating the issue, right? We're not, is it the root cause? We're not addressing that, or what? Give me your thoughts on that. What perspective do we need to look at things to actually have some significant and meaningful change?
Yeah. I think the one thing that we're really wrestling with on a big collective level
Mm.
is the polarity between kind of, we'll call it like professionalism
Okay.
and goal oriented focus,
Okay.
and relationality,
Mm.
personal awareness and presence,
Hmm.
and process. So there's something that's like very, very common that we'll see in values driven organizations, which is they're like, okay, we get together and we have a mission. Okay. And let's say, one person that I've worked with is a land justice group. We're thinking about, transforming people's relationships to land. It's like a nonprofit example.
Okay.
And another a for-profit example might be we are trying to design a more humane technology that that allows people access to social media
Okay.
without some of the addictive qualities and is a little bit more community focused as opposed to
Gotcha.
profit focused.
Love it.
Okay, these are real groups I've worked with.
Mm-hmm.
Now they get there and they're like, all right, so how are we going to work together?
Mm-hmm.
And they both have been in corporate settings before.
Mm-hmm.
And they've both been in a corporate setting where they noticed that it was very top down.
Okay.
It
Right.
was very focused on what you do and delivering the thing, and everything's quantifiable and everything's like driven. Don't talk about your
Sure.
feelings, leave your feelings
Yep.
to the side. And they've
Yep.
all been in a meeting where something didn't quite feel right, but we're gonna push ahead, and it's
Mm-hmm.
gonna leave people with weird feelings, and that you just deal with that.
Right.
Let's go, because we understand that the goal is to
Mm-hmm.
drive this profit and to make this metric by this date.
Right.
Right. We've all been in that culture
Mm-hmm.
before.
Sure.
So all these people, they've been in that culture and they realize, okay, something isn't right here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Something's not right on a personal level, because I'm here on my organization, my business, as a part of my values of who I am on earth. I'm not just here to do a job. I'm also here to express my values and be human.
Mm-hmm.
And this doesn't feel good. This feels offensive. I'm like, there's that.
Mm-hmm.
And then they also have another critique, which is, hang on, we didn't talk about this for long enough to come up with the real decision.
Correct.
We made a whole bunch of assumptions here.
Yes.
And if we had slowed down, we would have been able to catch those assumptions and make better decisions. And then they go another step and they're like, actually, if we had slowed down all the way, we would have realized that there was somebody in that meeting whose body tightened up and they felt scared and they felt like something wasn't right. They were not yet able to put that into language and an argument to convince someone. But if we had slowed down enough to feel that, we would have uncovered a new path and found something else. Yeah. And then they go even farther. And some people go even farther. It's like, and the extent to which everything we're doing is a function of how we navigate those subtleties and our willingness to be present with ourselves, and our awareness of what's driving us truly. Right? Is it my ego? Is it my fear? Is it my desire for impact? What's driving us? If we actually slow down and become more aware on that level, whoa, now we can do something really, really cool.
Right. Right.
So there's this polarity, and the issue is that you see a lot is that people don't know how to integrate them. So you'll end up with a corporate setting that's making all those pitfalls. Then you'll end up with the values-driven scenario, but really quickly that values-driven scenario turns into a bit of a mush fest, right? It can turn it, right? It's really, if you don't check yourself, you can start a conversation about trying to create your budget and end it feeling like it's group therapy real quick. And group therapy is beautiful, like communal healing spaces of deep and profound vulnerability where we focus on the transformation of ourselves. Utterly gorgeous. Really hard to do that.
Sure.
And build a tech platform in the same meeting.
I would say that would be an understatement. Yes.
So figuring out how to do both and navigate that with respect and precision, I think, is something that a lot of folks have a lot of trouble with. Right. And then just to take it one step farther, they try to solve the problem with values. They try to solve the problem by saying, this is what's important to me. Compassion is important to me. Awareness is important to me. Impact is important to me. And it's like, yeah, that's a great place to start. But there's a skill set of figuring out how to balance and lean into each value at one point to drive toward your purpose. Right. And that's a technical skill set. I can have a real deep value of energy efficiency. That doesn't mean that I know how to technically build a hybrid car.
Right. Yeah, true. Yeah, I love it. Something that stood out to me when you were talking about that is, and I don't do a lot of work internationally. My lovely assistant is from the Philippines, and I've got a few other people that I work with internationally, and it has struck me, and I feel like having lived in a very rural place, I've been fortunate enough to travel, but like I understand that I'm very not protected, but just I have a bubble, right? And there's a large world out there that I have no idea about, and I think knowing that is a good first step. But what I've found in my experiences, and I'd love to get your take on this, is that it seems like America is, to your point, just so like time driven, process driven, business driven that we often fail on the human side of things because we are so like driven by our schedule, and I'm guilty of this, but I'm also again trying to be aware of the fact that there's the human side of all of this stuff. I see it in business, I see it in education terribly, how we are just driving to for these results and better results and test scores and this kind of stuff, and it's like whoa, like we're dealing with humans, whether we're I realize we're trying to solve these big whether it's educational problems or business problems, but at the core, you are working with people, and people are going to react or kind of repel or kind of retract depending on the environment and how are they valued and is there, to your point, is there time to process, right? We talk about that in schools, right? Giving kids time to process the question. Then we force them into a business setting and it's like, all right, hey, we got another meeting. So like stop processing, like this is the way we're going to move forward. So anyways, would love to get your thoughts on the I guess just is this an American thing? Is this a worldwide thing? What role do you see just in kind of our culture here in America?
Wow, big questions. I think that there's a human puzzle
Hmm.
everywhere,
Right.
which is how do I understand the relationship between me as an individual
Okay.
and us as a collective? And how do I balance between those things?
Hmm.
I think that, I haven't done a ton of work with international groups, so I can't speak like really specifically to their kind of
Hmm.
corporate cultures. But I know folks who have worked in those spaces and they run into similar puzzles just
Hmm.
of like how do we balance the individual and the collective and how do we get
Right.
this done?
Right.
And they're inside of different countries and different focuses. There's different different ways of doing that. I think that
Hmm.
one of the patterns is that the more specific and quantifiable you make specific, quantifiable, and simple you
Hmm.
make your goal, the more it encourages a system that devalues individual participation and individual insights and slowness.
Hmm.
And I think that makes sense, right? If me and you wanted to collaborate and we wanted to create the exact same drawing of a giraffe over and over and over again, the best thing to do would be to make a template, create a
Hmm.
really systematized process,
Right.
and not bring our feelings into it and just get it done over and over.
Hmm.
If what we wanted to do was explore which picture of a giraffe would have the broadest educational impact across a whole bunch of different cultures and don't
Right.
structure that.
Right. Right.
Like
Right.
there's a lot that needs to go into that. And I
Yeah.
think that one of the things that's happened is that a lot of businesses in the United States and businesses in capitalist systems drive
Hmm.
profit. So they come up with
Yep.
a very specific theory. If I make this, a leader thinks if I make this drawing of a giraffe and I create this system and I just get everybody to do it, then I'll get my profit. Right. So
Hmm.
he's controlled it, which creates that incentive to make it specific.
Right.
And then on a like large scale, if your fundamental thing you're solving for is just profit,
Hmm.
that's it's complex, but it's
Hmm.
also way simpler than
Hmm.
what somebody who's like really moving from a values driven place is trying to solve for, which is
Right.
like the regeneration of human relationship with each other and earth in order to create
Hmm.
meaningful equitable lives for all beings. It's like that's not a linear
No.
game.
No.
So I think that that's one of the things that does it. And I think there's interesting, yeah, gifts and shadows of different
Yeah.
cultures.
Yeah. So in that, I mean, we've kind of addressed the fact that we live in America here, very fast paced, very high pressure environments. You kind of talked about the duality, the polarity of those things. What is the real cost of ignoring that emotional and relational dynamic? Like what is the cost? What is that costing our businesses and our culture?
There's a really specific business level cost, which you can see most clearly in turnover,
Okay, yep.
right? If, especially with younger generations, right? I'm 36, right? So my generation, and especially the ones younger, often come into an environment with an expectation that there's going to be some room for creativity and some room for them mattering, and there's some things my generation younger we need to work out, some poor expectations, but especially those folks, right? You're going to get a lot of turnover. People are going to come, they're going to feel disrespected, they're going to see the leadership and think that it doesn't have integrity and credibility, they're not
Right.
with the nuance that's going on, and they're going to
Mhm.
leave and move elsewhere. And each turnover, right, you just wasted all of your recruitment costs, you wasted all your onboarding costs, you now
Right.
are slowed down, right? We know turnover is not great. So there's that set of costs. Then, like, on a business decision level,
Mhm.
you don't have all of the data that you actually want in order
Right.
to make a decision,
Right.
right? So if I'm making a decision and the only thing I've done is, I'm making a decision, and I've done market research on what product I'm going to do, and I asked 3 questions to 5 people. Okay, I
Hmm.
have that information.
Right.
If I ask those 3 questions to those same 5 people, and I also give them an hour to tell me about the nuance of how they thought about that, boy, do
Hmm.
I have better information. If I
Right.
ask them how they felt when I presented it to them,
Hmm.
even if they don't know exactly, and they
Right.
just, whoa, that's great. If I do that to 20 people, boy, do I have better information, right? And product developers know this. They
Mhm.
do enough market research to inform the decision.
Sure.
But it's the same basic idea when I'm inside of a meeting, right? If the two of us are making a decision and I give us 90 seconds to think about it and I only accept arguments based on numbers,
Hmm.
that's just a tiny fraction of the kind of information that we actually have. So
Hmm.
part of decision making becomes creating enough spaciousness to get the right types of information from the right types of people and make it robust enough
Hmm.
without then slipping into the shadow side, which you don't want to over process anything,
Right.
right? You can't get everything from everybody. So at some point you got to make a call. So I think that you have turnover, you have poor business decisions or poor strategic decisions, and then you have poor impacts on humans
Mm-hmm.
and humans' lives,
Yeah.
right? Because if you don't ask the people who are going to be hit by your decisions how they feel about those decisions, whether or not they have a different strategy, if you just get their emotional impact, at least you're going to make terrible decisions, right? Especially if you're trying to do something like, if you're trying to run a program to provide, you know, health services to people in a certain neighborhood. Right? It's not rocket science. Go talk to the people in the neighborhood
Sure. Right. Yeah.
first. It's
Hmm.
not rocket science. If you have somebody from the neighborhood on your team,
Hmm.
ask
Right.
them how things feel.
Hmm.
Right? It's
Yeah.
actually not that.
Not, not as hard as we make it.
It's not rocket science to
Right.
realize that if you sit in an ivory tower with partial decision, with partial information, making decisions that are going to have huge impacts on other people, you're going to have weird impacts that aren't great.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. So tell us about Harmonize. That's your organization company. It's built around the idea of teams don't fail because of effort, misalignment. I mean, we've heard a little bit about kind of your heart, but tell us about the creation of that, kind of the goal, the mission of what it is you're trying to do with Harmonize.
Yeah. So, right, we've talked for a couple minutes here, and we've already gone through these like vast terrain of what it takes to
Hmm.
work together, right? We talked about decision making, we talked about recruitment pipelines, we talked about culture, we talked about deep mindsets, we talked about all this different stuff, right? And most people who are listening are probably generally familiar with everything that I said. I might have said it in some clever way that made a light bulb go on, but most people are aware of these kinds of puzzles.
Right.
And the way that most people then respond is to try to find instrumental solutions to things. They'll be like,
Okay.
oh, let me figure out how decision making works. Let me change my recruitment pipeline. Let
Right.
me
Right.
do. But there's another thing that's really helpful to do first, which is
Okay.
back out
Okay.
and see the forest through the trees.
Gotcha.
What is an organization? What actually makes an organization function? If you're building one, what are the foundational building blocks you need? If you're changing one, what are the real levers you have to change it? And after a decade of asking that question, we've got our cute little frameworks. So when we look at an organization, we look at how it sees, how it works together, how it is, and how it grows. So C, B, work together and grow. And the C is, your purpose and your strategy and your context, your political analysis. B is how you navigate all those individual cultural dynamics, work together, your structures, your systems, your policies. And grow together is how you how you hear and respond to the call for change, whether that comes from inside or outside your organization.
Okay.
So you look at those four elements, and then we can diagnose what's going on. And then we have a bunch of different trainings and interventions for all sorts of things. So what we do is we help leaders see that hole, then figure out how to navigate that hole, and then provide them the training and support they need to take skills into their teams to make them function.
Love it. Love it. How should people connect with you if they would like to learn more and engage with you? I think you said, or I think I saw on your website that there's just a kind of a discovery call aspect to things if people want to
Yeah.
book some time with you. Does that sound right?
Yep. The quickest way to do it is you just go to harmonize.work. So harmonize with a Z.work. And there's a couple things on there that are helpful. So the first thing is right now you can download our collaboration manual, which is a large menu of the different kinds of agreements people make to create a strong organizational infrastructure that can give you a sense of like the holistic nature of how we work, and also really get your mind thinking about what specifically I want to build or work on or change. And then there's just an exploratory call where we hop on it for a half hour. We tell you more about what we can do, feel into if it's a fit, and try in that half hour to provide you at least one really strong insight that will help your situation that you're in.
Love it. Awesome. So check that out. Appreciate your time today, Simon. I'd like to finish all of my podcast guest interviews with three key questions. We've kind of bounced all over with lots of really kind of fun, unique perspective on things. And I guess maybe because of that, it's kind of fun to hear people's perceptions and answers to these questions. So if you wouldn't mind, my three key questions. Number one, who is a leader that you most admire and try to emulate?
Ooh. So I'm Jewish, and there's this mythological character,
Okay.
Solomon, that people know.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And a lot of different things are attributed to him,
Mm-hmm.
both like occupying a political position of king,
Right. Right.
right, which is a governance structure, placed in a governance structure of decision making. But also, people attribute to him the book of Proverbs of wisdom,
Wisdom. Yep.
and deep surrender to a wisdom greater than himself.
Okay.
People also attribute to him the Song of Songs, which is a like deeply love-centered and erotic poem about the love between people, the love of the earth, and the love of the mystery itself. So a deep sense of embodiment. And people also attribute to him Ecclesiastes, which is a book that's like confronting the absurdity and the sadness and the grief and kind of pointlessness of it all.
Okay.
Really like staring down into the void and then figuring out how to come back from that and make meaning. And I think that while I have some critiques of the king-based governance structure that he sat over, I think that figuring out how to balance and integrate those things is one of the puzzles that I find myself also engaged in.
All right. I love it. Love it. Appreciate it. That's a great answer. Question number two, what learning, sounds like you are constantly on the lookout for new insights and new things like this. So what learning has most impacted you in this last year?
Hmm. What learning has most impacted me in the past year? Trying to give you a good answer that
You're good.
matters.
You're good, man. I kind of, I mean, does not surprise me that you're a deep thinker from our previous conversation, right? I will give you the time to that you need to come up with a good answer. Take your time.
I think that something that came into focus, I was always kind of like on the peripheral of my awareness that I'm like really still metabolizing right
Okay.
now is the extent to which I can slip into a victim narrative inside
Okay.
myself
Okay.
and the relationship between kind of viewing myself as like, oh, woe is me.
Mm,
Woe is me. I'm being taken advantage of. Things
hmm.
aren't good. Like I like that
Okay.
story inside
Sure. Sure.
myself and uh a sense of superiority. So
Okay.
I think I really stared down and I'm continuing to stare down how I can sometimes the basic architecture of the story is like I'm not you I'm not getting what I want or what I need. You aren't doing enough to get me what I want or need or to get us what you want or
Okay.
what I need.
Okay.
Woe is me. I'm the martyr. I'm the martyr. I just have to do that. And
Hmm.
by the way, that makes me better than you because I'm doing more things and I see the way that you are failing and you're hurting
Right.
me and I'm suffering like that thing, that loop
Okay. Hmm.
of like victim into superiority
Right.
and the extent to which that's driven me and turned me and like made me do things that I don't want to do or be a person I don't want to be. I think
Hmm.
that's like a big one that I'm with right now.
Right. Well, kudos to you for being aware of that. I mean, I'm sure that you would agree with this, that, the path to growth is starts with awareness, right? If you're not aware of that, then, you're just going to stay there and kind of perpetuate that and kind of circle that. So, kudos to you for being authentic and real with yourself, saying, "Hey, I see this. It's not the way I want to be. Let's, how can I grow as well?" So, good for you,
Trying
man.
to trying to figure it out.
Yep, you and me both. You and me both. All right. Awesome. Last question for you. Um, how would you empower learning for future generations? We talked a little bit right before we started. You are a brand new dad, so that's always fun. So you can kind of go through it with the lens of with your new son. You could do this with people that you work with. But just how does that land with you? How would you empower learning for future generations?
Focus on the underlying skills for collaboration as
Oh,
opposed to task completion.
I love that.
So think that like collaboration requires clear goals and a clear
Hmm.
purpose. Sometimes the collaboration is to create the clear goals and the clear
Hmm.
purpose.
Right, right, right.
It requires awareness of the delegation of tasks. Who's going
Okay,
to do what and how are we going to do
right.
it? It requires conversation about who's going to do those tasks and why. Who has skill sets now? Who wants to learn what kinds of skill sets? Where are
Mm-hmm.
we on our learning journeys as individuals? Right. It
Right.
requires that. It requires personal awareness of how
Hmm.
am I showing up to this and what parts of myself am I going to bring to collaborate? What parts are useful or appropriate or welcome here? What should I
Right.
process elsewhere? It
Hmm.
requires backing out and feeling just as an individual. What were the emotions that came up, and
Hmm.
how does that work for me, and what is good and not good for me about this collaboration? And it requires conflict engagement. Can't collaborate without a disagreement, without conflict, and
Hmm.
that conflict requires personal awareness and relationship tending and all of these other things. So I think that really focusing on what it looks like to do it together, because everything that we're going to do, fundamentally, we got to do it together. And either we're going to realize that and do it well, or we're going to pretend like we're not doing it together and try to dominate one another. And that is, in technical terms, a huge bummer.
Love it. Very technical. We end on the most technical of all of the insights. I love that. That's perfect. Cool. Well, Simon, man, this has been super fun. This has been a very engaging conversation. It's got my mind thinking on lots of different levels. So, I mean, that's why I do this, right? It's so much fun because everybody brings in different energy, different insights, perspectives, and you brought it, my friend. This was good stuff. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks so much, Andy. It's been great to chat and great to be pushed to think about some things that
There you go.
I hadn't thought about.
Good stuff. All right, man. Thanks again. Appreciate your time. See you guys next time.
All right. Bye.
Thanks again to Simon Mont for sharing his insights on leadership, collaboration, and building intentional organizations. The big takeaway: great teams don't happen by accident. They're designed with clear systems, strong leadership, and honest communication. If you found value in this episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who's passionate about building better teams. Thanks for listening to the Empowered Learning Podcast. See you next time.